Welcome to Visionaries Global Media, your number one source for podcasting entertainment. Visionaries Global Media, envisioning excellence on a global scale.
What up, world? It's your boys E and D, but not that ED. Coming at you with another episode of Nattering BOLA. That's right, end of 2014. Uh, Initially we were going to do like a recap and music in episode, but it is hard to figure out where to get all the music from 2014, which is weird because you'd think that like Cage Match would have all that. Anyways, um before we get rolling, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Akira, who's a current wrestler in MLW, and he also does uh wrestling on the independents. He's the love of my crush's life, Masha Slamovich. Yesterday he was involved. So we're recording this on Sunday, November 24th. This will go up on Wednesday, November 27th, I believe. And essentially, while last night, 11/23, was Ruthless Pro Wrestling's Malignant. That's their season finale. Ruthless Pro's amazing. I'll have an episode about that later this week too. But in the main event, Akira wrestled Drake Younger in a 200 death light tube death match, with the stipulation being that the winner, no, the loser could no longer be a death match wrestler. And midway through, like they could wrestle, they just were retired from death match wrestling, basically. So in any death match independent card, they'd be the one match that is not death match related. Um, Midway through the match, Akira ends up getting injured very badly to the point where like it looks like parts of his stomach are coming out of his side, and he wanted to continue. They were willing to call off the match, so but he ends up going on to win, so that's a little bit of a spoiler there. And Drake Younger no longer can do deathmatch wrestling. We later found out that Akira um, had to be rushed to the hospital right afterwards for colon surgery because he punctured his colon. So we just want to give a shout out to Akira. Hope he makes a very speedy recovery. Everybody in RPW, I guess, does a good job with taking care of him and Masha, and hopefully hopefully he'll be on the path to recovery soon. And yeah, we just wanted to give a shout out to Akira before we started today, which is Nattering BOLA 2014, Night 3. So tonight on Nattering BOLA, we're recapping the quarterfinals, semis, the finals, and more. Ballard, after that long introduction, how are you? And also, to say that Night 3 was bonkers would, as I say, putting it mildly, but how would you put it?
Yeah, it was, I know we've only covered two of these, but this is for sure my favorite, like final night of a BOLA tournament. Um, so far, we'll see how it stands up against the ones in the future.
Yeah, definitely. And you're doing well, uh, by the way.
Oh yeah, yeah, I'm good. I mean, I'm, a little concerned to hear that about Akira because, I love that guy. I've met him a couple times. He was, when he was coming up, like his early deathmatch career before he was anybody in Japan or, anything like that. I watched him wrestle some of his early death matches in One Point Wrestling, Survival of the Sickest. So yeah, I really like that guy. He's a very nice guy.
Yeah, definitely. He had
Hmm.
I think he was actually on the Wizards a couple months ago
Yeah, he
as
was.
one of their guests. Yeah, yeah. And he sounded pretty good, like he, he sounded like he had a good head on his shoulders. So,
Yeah, he seems like a very nice guy. He's, I mean, I think all deathmatch wrestlers have to be a little bit crazy, but I mean, if you're too normal, I don't like you anyway.
That's true. That is true. How you've put up with me for 3 episodes, I don't know. But that's not to say that I'm too normal or not. uh, but yeah, this yeah, for him, I honestly I was saying on the preview for that, which you can check on Visionaries Global Media, of course, under Tom's Midwestern Wrestling Roundup. We had Peapod on to preview Malignant last week. And I was saying, Akira's got that look where you hope he gets to like a WWE at some point, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Because I was thinking like TNA or I mean AEW is probably the I heard it on the podcast today that AEW is probably the closest thing to a second promotion since WCW shut its doors. Like TNA, the people never considered to be like that second option. So um I would see him more. I mean, if he's worked a style where he's not doing death matches, so that's sort of why I think he would be good in WWE. I can't really see him in AEW, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not one to really be able to speak on it too well because I haven't been current with either of those promotions in like a year. Uh, but I guess just knowing what I know, yeah, I think I can agree with that. I think he would be super over in like NXT for sure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Definitely, definitely. So, speaking of NXT, our opening match for the quarterfinals was two um standouts from NXT over the last couple of years, and also a husband and wife, part of the Way, Candice LeRae versus Johnny Gargano. Um, so this match was match of husband versus wife. I actually have it written down that Candice LeRae was not only against Johnny Gargano, but also against his abs. So making it a handicap match. With that being the case, do you think that she stood a chance going into this?
Uh, I I don't think that she did. Not only because, as you said, it was a handicap match, but
Yeah.
I just think that um, as far as who's more over, I think that Gargano was more over at this point in time. And I honestly don't know if Candice has ever been more over than him. I'm not familiar enough with both of their careers pre WWE, but yeah, I think Gargano was just more over, so it was more likely for him to win.
Yeah, yeah. I sort of felt that way too. She basically, I mean, we saw it earlier in the tournament and in 2013 that she had like a bit of an underdog character to her. Like
Yeah.
I think about when she wrestled in that 6 man in 2013 with Swan and Fox versus Mount Rushmore at the time, and you could tell that like she played the Pearl in the face in the Pearl, like the one who took most of the beat down and them fired up for the comebacks pretty well. And then when she
Mhm.
was wrestling Rich Swann in round one of this year's tournament, she you could tell they don't know what to do with her, like the wrestlers, like the story, and we saw that here too, where like the story was, we get that you're a wrestler, and we get that you're no, no, it's like we get that you're a wrestler too, but we don't want to hurt you, and you're thinking, and all she wants is just to be taken as seriously as them. So, uh, it's like it seemed. I mean, we saw that in the Swan match, and then we saw it here with Gargano. That until she got like vile in the sense of like she slapped Swan and then Swan finally treated her equally and like literally like beat her down the way he would beat down another opponent. And until she spit on Johnny, like this match was like there was some cool stuff, but you could tell he wasn't going like full 100% on her, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does, and I think that's I have absolutely nothing against intergender wrestling. I think we've talked about this before, but like it is something that makes it a bit like you have to suspend your disbelief like a little extra step. But there's some stuff that Candice LeRae does that I really enjoy, where she'll use like her momentum to take an opponent down, and like momentum is a huge thing in any kind of combat sport, like physical, actual momentum. I used to have a friend when I was younger. We were probably in our 20s, like early 20s, and he had a brother that was like 13, much smaller than me. But we used to have a little like wrestling league that we would do in our front yard, and it was just like you had to be sitting down or on your knees, and it was like kind of grappling only, just so we didn't get hurt. And his brother one time, being 7 years younger than me and like 200 pounds lighter, grabbed a hold of me and used momentum to flip me over. I was like stunned. So I think when in intergender wrestling, when if the woman is a smaller person, they gotta like use their momentum to make the match look believable to me.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of that, there's a couple of spots here that really stood out to me. For instance, early in the match, Candice hits this neck breaker through the ropes on Johnny that looks like the Rude Awakening, where like it's like a snapmare neck breaker. Like that looked friggin' painful. And then she flew through the ropes after that. Um, there's another part where they're wrestling on the top rope. She's giving him like it's weird. They're on the top rope, if you could picture this, whoever's listening, and they she's giving him like the 10 punches in the corner thing, but he's got her up in like a power bomb position from the top rope, and he like lifts her up and reverse power bombs her not onto the pad, but onto like that metal thing behind it. And I was like, oh my God, like that's freaking crazy. And uh then she ends up hitting a tope suicida. So then he's outside the ring a couple minutes later for a different move, and he gets the fans to clear away, and then she chops him, runs back into the ring, bounces off the ropes as Bauer just alluded to with the momentum. And with her momentum, she flies through the ring for a tope suicida, hits a tornado DDT on the concrete. And I'm like, oh my frigging goodness. And there was another move where Gargano has her like stretched out. I think no, actually, I think she put him in the octopus hold, and he goes to like flip around in a tilt-a-whirl, and she reverses it into a Gargano escape. And at that point, I just have written on my notes in capital letters, this match rules. and, and as I was noting earlier, throughout the match, Gargano's going pretty easy on her. Like there's a moment in the match where uh he puts her down when he tried to do the lawn dart move. He goes to finish her off with a kick, and instead of flipping him off, she spits in his face. And then it's finally then where he has this moment of realization where he's like, "Yeah, she's the love of my life and everything, but I need to win this tournament." And like, too bad. And then he just like destroys her after that. Like he finishes her off with that German suplex into a flatliner thing, and I was like, oh my God. One thing I wanted to note before we get to your side of the notes is that ref definitely messed up the pin at the end there.
Yeah, the only note that I have that you haven't covered already, because like it's funny, we without speaking to each other, we pretty much took the same notes on this match.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, in the end, I was just like, I don't know if she was maybe like legitimately knocked out and couldn't kick out. But Gargano seemed surprised and the crowd was pissed.
Yeah, because you could literally she was out for like a 4 or 5 count, and the ref just like
Uh,
holds up at 2. And Gargano was, as you said, Gargano was surprised, but the crowd really gave it to him. Like,
yep,
uh, I thought it was interesting too how just throughout the night they end up going back and forth between this ref, I missed his name, and Rick Knox, like they would do, as opposed to Rick Knox calling every match. This guy came in for like 3 or 4 matches, and then vice versa. Um, I also appreciated uh I'll talk about this a little bit later at length, but I appreciated the fact that they set it up so that Joey Ryan got 3 matches to call. I think Chris Hero called 3 matches, and I think Chuck called 1 or 2. So like I appreciated the continuity and not just having Excalibur by himself with like 8 different co-hosts. So that was kind of
Yeah.
yeah, I appreciated that part. So we already talked about usually what we finish up for each match is did you think the right person went over? And we basically covered that at the beginning, that we both thought Johnny made sense to go over for that.
Yep, I
Uh,
agree.
okay, so second match was TJ Perkins versus Ricochet. Uh, this match started off with some good comedy where they were going to lock up, and then Rick Knox they would try and lock up with Rick Knox. So at one point the crowd chants three way, and all 3 of them start grappling with each other, and then Rick Knox like quickly is like, no, it's your match. It's not, I'm not in this. So I thought that was pretty funny. What did you make of this match?
Yeah, I thought that part was definitely good. I love when there's a little bit of referee. I like that the referees are not so serious in PWG. Like a lot of times, everybody isn't so serious, but you know, I digress. I thought that I love that the opening was super fast paced. It was a little bit of comedy, a little bit of technical work, a little bit of high flying. It was like a what do you call that? Like a charcuterie board of wrestling. It was awesome.
Yeah, definitely agree. Yeah. Um, I have that written down too. Both guys were so fast. Like I was trying to take notes for this, and I was just like, I'm just gonna sit here until they slow down, and then I'll start
Yeah.
writing. So, like, like the way that they were countering each other for like the first 5 minutes was like, yeah, they have no interest in actually finishing the match this quickly. It's just they just want to see who's quicker than the other guy. Um, there was a part where so TJ, when he faced Bobby Fish worked over his knee a lot, and we discussed it on last week's episode, or no, I think 2 weeks ago when we did the night one, where we thought, is TJ Perkins legitimately injured, or was he just working that really well? And then Excalibur mentions to, I think Joey Ryan actually brings that up on commentary, and Excalibur says, "Oh yeah, that's why he took off night two, where he was just literally rehabbing his knee to go into this." And
Hmm.
what I thought was interesting about that is that the way that he was working over Ricochet's arm was they made a note on commentary too, that it was similar to how Bobby Fish was bending his knee like 6 ways to Sunday. He was doing it to Ricochet's arm, which like he eventually starts working on Ricochet's legs as well, which to me, just thinking about this logically and watching Ricochet, is that was where I would have focused my attack for, because he's like a high flyer. He does all these crazy ass moves, and like I don't know why you would work on his arm, but what did you think of that specific part?
I didn't really take note of it, I guess. I was at first I was really sucked into the match, like you said, where you're not really taking notes because you're so involved in what they're doing. And like there was a lot of inventive reversals, and the beginning being so fast paced was awesome. But in the end, I was just kind of like, I don't know, I kind of lost interest in this match. Maybe a quarter of the way through, which kind of sucks because I love Ricochet and TJ Perkins is fine. Like he's never going to be one of my favorites, but he's usually entertaining enough to watch.
Yeah, you know what? I got that vibe too. I mentioned off air just before we came on that this was probably my least favorite match of the tournament, which I think I was trying to think of why off air, but now that it's come up again, I think the reason is that like they're so similar in what they do, and like to me Ricochet, I love Ricochet, don't get me wrong, but like at the same time I'm completely fine if he just has 5 moves. Like I don't need to see a technical masterclass. Like if he hits the brainbuster, to me, if he hits the brainbuster, the punt kick, and then the 630, and if that doesn't work, uh his like version of the Styles like forearm off the top rope, and then that puts the opponent away, I'm totally fine with that. I don't need to see him uh try and do a shoot style and like have his arm worked over by TJ Perkins for like 20 minutes. It sort of reminds me of did you ever watch WWE back in like when Randy Orton was way younger, like when Randy Orton was like late 20s, early 30s, so I'd say like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. I've kind of like gone in and out of WWE.
Hmm.
I remember being there for like Randy Orton's super early career with like Evolution. I'm not sure if that's the time period that you mean.
Yeah, sort of just after that, where you could always guarantee that he was going to put his opponent in like a headlock rest hold for like the
Right.
first 8 minutes, like
Yeah.
and then like eventually when the guy fought back, you would see like him pick up the pace. He'd hit that quick power slam and then eventually get into the punt kick or the RKO. For me, that's what this was. Where like I don't need to see both these guys. Um, how do I put this? The way that like I don't think Johnny and Candice in the first match left the crowd breathless where you needed to have such a slow match afterwards, if that makes any
Sure.
sense.
Yeah,
Like
it does.
like they're both like both guys are so fast, but I don't think that style necessarily works like right away. Like I think it's a better style for if you have like a killer match and then the crowd needs to come down, then that works. So um eventually Ricochet hits that DVD into a punt kick, uh, which wobbles TJ Perkins, and then he hits another DVD into basically Black Mass and wins the match. And as we see, Ricochet ends up being the right guy to win this match. We had mentioned in round one that it was nice to see TJ Perkins beat Bobby Fish, but we, um, I don't think either of us saw him going to the finals, just given it how stacked the rest of the card was.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
And just to answer your question, I just saw it. RPW is on uh, IWTV. I can send you some login information afterwards about that, like once we go off air. So,
Okay,
is that,
yeah, I would appreciate it because I actually have Wednesday off this week. I got to get like two little things fixed on my car in the morning, and then I planned on watching Blackpool Sun after that. But I also would watch that RPW show if I could.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll hook you up with login info for that. I don't want to give it onto the pod because I don't want like a random
Yeah,
guy to suddenly use my stuff.
yeah, I get you.
So, but yeah, I'll hit you up on the at the end when we're talking off air.
Okay,
Uh,
sounds good.
but yeah, Ricochet. So Ricochet wins with the DVD into a Black Mass. Um, that match was, as you could hear, we both were not too keen on that. However, the next match, initially I was like, so initially when I saw Trevor Lee versus Michael Elgin, I was like, because I was frustrated with that Perkins versus Ricochet match. So that like heavy sigh I just did, I was like, please, not two of these in a row, sort of thing.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
man, was I wrong. Like this match was, I have this as low key the match of the tournament, and I was like, oh my God, this match was insane. I mean, it starts out Augen put in the power to Lee, who valiantly tries to counter. Augen, it's in. I wanted to message you about this too because Augen frustrates me so much because you see in like 2014, whether it's ROH or whether it's here, how much potential the guy has. Like him and Brian Cage, even though they're built as like two like beef daddies, and but they can move like cruiserweights. Like
mhm.
it's like if Samoa Joe had a six pack. Like that's how Brian Cage is for me. And then
Yeah,
Michael Elgin is totally the same way of like this like big hulky guy, like this I think he's under 6 feet. Like I want to say he's like 5'10", like 230 pounds, and he could just like flat out fly. And you're just uh, um and he can kill you with all the power moves. And you're just like, oh my God, he's like the most complete wrestler. Like, why did he have to be like knowing how he ended up, it's like, oh my God, you had the whole world in your hand, man. Like, why?
I agree. He's 5'11", 267, which like I think that if he had not been such a scumbag, he definitely could have made it to. He would either be like where Moose is right now in TNA, where he's like basically top of TNA, or he could be like a lower, like high card guy in WWE. Like, I can't really think of anybody to compare him to, but like somebody that floats around the bottom of the high card in WWE.
Honestly, he's built like Ryback, but like 8 million times better than Ryback. Like that, like
Yeah,
he has that look. And it's just
yeah.
like, gosh darn it. Where like I think the TNA comparison is better with Moose because you just know he and Brian Cage have this look where Vince McMahon would have foamed at the mouth for it, but he would have botched like how those guys got over.
Oh
But
yeah, for sure.
like they have that look where you're just like these guys should be like pillars of the friggin' tournament. Or
Yeah.
not tournament or like on some guys Mount Rushmore sort of thing. Like he's so good. Trevor Lee here, I can't believe is like only 20 years old and like he retired he quote unquote retired Kevin Steen from uh the Indies. He had a great match with Cedric Alexander in the first round. He gets Michael Elgin here, and he's only 20, but you're thinking to yourself, like, this guy's got the goods, man. Like he could also be like the next generation. I mentioned I mentioned previously to you about how if Bryan Danielson's the GOAT, then Gargano's the next guy, then if there's a guy after that, it's probably Trevor Lee, I would think.
At this point in time, I would definitely agree with you in 2014, because he does some really crazy stuff in this match. Like at one point, he hits a really really good looking Hurricane Rana, which I don't think that anybody hits a good Hurricane Rana. It actually kind of drives me nuts. It's kind of like they just jump up onto their opponent and like straddle their face for a second, and then the opponent just does an obvious front flip. Like I don't see any good versions of that move anymore. And there's at one point I just mentioned Hogan is 5'11", 267, uh, and Lee hits him with a deadlift German suplex like from laying flat at one point in this match. It was crazy.
Yeah, there was a crazy move too where like I think Elgin was setting up for that uh discus clothesline that he does before he kills his opponent with the Elgin bomb sequence with the buckle bomb and then into the massive Elgin bomb. And Lee countered it into that like Spanish fly cross body thing. And I was like, the fact he was able to get Elgin up for that, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. There was another part which was they clearly botched it and they tried to save it on commentary where um they went for I think Lee was trying to counter the power bomb and at the same time Elgin just flat out drops him like as he's falling behind him and they're like, "Oh, he hit a uh reverse backbreaker through his shoulder where and Joey Ryan's just like to Excalibur, no, that's clearly a botch. If the ropes weren't there, I'm pretty sure we would have had to change like how this match ended.
Yeah.
I was like, but the way that I saw it, I was like, I think he was out for a second too. Like just the way that he landed, I was like,
Hmm.
holy smokes. There's another move where I can't remember if he hits like if Elgin hits like this top rope Elgin bomb on him. I might be mistaken, but Lee kicks out of it, and I'm just like, okay, but if it's one of these bullshit, there's a big thing on the indie scene now. I've ranted about it no numerous times where a guy hits their finisher, another guy kicks out, at like one from it. The crowd pops, and then 2 seconds later, the guy gets rolled up, and loses the match. So when he kicked out of that like super Elgin bomb, I was like, all right, this dude better win. Like, there's no way that this guy's gonna like lose 2 seconds later, right, to like a simple punch. And he ends up rolling him up by and winning by a small package. But as I said, it was like low key match of the tournament. Like if for those listening to us, night three, match number three, Trevor Lee versus Michael Elgin. Go out of your way to check that out because that's definitely like one of the best matches I've seen in a while.
Yep, I can concur with that. I thought it was a really good match overall, and I mean, we're giving Trevor Lee his props, and we should, but Michael Elgin in this match does some great stuff too. Like at one point, he power slams Trevor Lee onto the floor, like just straight onto the hardwood. I'm like, oh, it's another Ciampa Brian Cage situation. Like Trevor Lee's
Yeah,
just dead.
yeah,
Uh, and there's a few times in this match where honestly, I was surprised that Trevor Lee didn't get like accidentally knocked out because Elgin was like really stiffing him with some elbows and punches during this match.
yeah, definitely. They told a very good story, like
Uh-huh.
initially in the beginning after that power slam, where Elgin is putting the power to Lee, who's like he's trying to counter, but it's just not happening. It sort of reminded me of when you see like I don't know if you've watched any of those Jean-Claude Van Damme movies like The Quest or like Bloodsport where you see like this big beefy guy go against the more scrawny guy and just absolutely obliterates him. Like it sort of reminded me of that a little. So I
I
I
can
was
see that.
so I was like, all right, please don't let this be like a 5 second squash match. Because if you remember at the beginning of this match, um, Algin straight up attacks Trevor Lee and beats him down in the corner. And the ref's just like, come on, move back. Also, it's the ref from the Gargano match. So the crowd already hates this dude. And
Yeah.
and, and there's a funny part where like he pulls Algin away and they're booing. And Algin looks at him like, is that for me or is that for you? Which was which was pretty funny. Uh,
Uh-huh.
in terms of so as I mentioned before, Trevor Lee wins the matchup, but in terms of right guy, wrong guy winning, what did you think?
I agree. I think that I agree with the result is what I mean. I think that Trevor Lee should have won because there's been too many years in a row, as we've heard, where Elgin made it to the finals and then didn't win. Like I didn't want to see that again. And I know he's not there yet, but sooner or later, I've made this joke before. I'm going to repeat jokes. Uh, at some point, Trevor Lee is going to the moon, and like this is his, strapping the rocket on phase of his career.
Definitely. This to me was like a sore dick. You can't beat it. I don't know how they're going to top it the rest of the
You know
tournament.
what? They somehow do though. In my opinion, like I said to you all there, like I would never agree with you, or I would never argue with your opinion of this being like the low key match of the weekend. It's not mine, but I would never argue with that opinion. I think it's a fine opinion.
So I'm laughing so hard. I heard that line about it's like a sore dick, you can't beat it on a
Uh-huh.
different pod. And I legitimately had to like when I heard this other pod say that, I legitimately like spit out my drink and was laughing so hard for like a good 5 minutes. So I'm trying not to laugh too hard
Hmm.
now. At that
It's funny.
I popped myself basically.
Yeah, I do it sometimes. I did it last night. I made like two really horrible dad jokes last night, and my wife is just straight face looking at me like, "What is wrong with you?" And I'm just cracking up.
Yeah, I saw a meme. I should send it to you, but it's like actually let me pull it up right now. As we catch our breath from the first three matches here. Thoughts so far on the second round, like the opening part of the second round?
I thought that for the most part it was good. It was very entertaining. Even the Ricochet TJ Perkins match, which I didn't end up loving. Like, it was fine. It was very entertaining at the beginning, at least.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so here's the joke that popped me as well. Um, what is the most versatile vegetable in your opinion? Stephen Hawking.
Uh,
Stephen
oh my
Hawking,
God.
a pioneer in string theory, but also an elegant writer.
Oh my God.
I was like, that's amazing. Horrible, but amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that popped me too. I was like, oh my God, that's tremendous. Our next matchup. So our first three matches, just to recap, um, Johnny Gargano over Candice LeRae, via via German suplex into a flatliner, which was nuts. Um, I wish that he still did that move, present day. Like that's a bonkers move. Um, TJ Perkins lost to Ricochet in the second match. It was like a DVD into a black mass, which was pretty crazy. Our third match was Trevor Lee versus uh, Michael Elgin, which I'm considering my low key match of the tournament, and uh, Trevor Lee won that by small package. So, uh, going into the semi-final round, we have Johnny Gargano, Ricochet, and Trevor Lee. So our next match, match number 4, Rick Knox is back. So the crowd loves Rick Knox, but they hate the other referee. And this match was on paper. I mean, I mentioned to you last week, I wasn't a fan of Kenny at this time. And like Seidel has been very good. There's another project that like we've been discussing off air about covering the Ted Petty Invitationals once this finishes up, where I think we'll get like more of an appreciation for Matt Seidel once we get to that point. So that's probably like I want to say later in 2025 or a ways away, a ways away. But I'll let you take it from here for Matt Seidel versus Kenny Omega, and I'll just throw in my notes afterwards.
Okay. I mean, the first note that I took had nothing to do with the match. You know how I love to pick things out of the crowd. And I saw this a couple of times after I noticed it. I think, do you remember Brad Maddox from WWE?
You mean the Page and Xavier Woods, Brad
Yeah,
Maddox?
that
Yes.
guy, yes.
Yep. Yep.
I think he's front row in the crowd for this show. I'm not like 100% sure, but he's like, there's a guy that looks just like him sitting with this woman with red hair. And yeah, I'd like to know if it was him. I might go back and like try to really like freeze frame on it and see, but I digress. It's not. Um, but I just, going to the actual match, I love how at this point in Kenny Omega's career, he's just like absolutely deranged.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
just seems like a crazy person most of the time. Like at one point, um, let me see here. I didn't take like a ton of notes on this match just because I was so like sucked into it. As much as I'm not like a huge fan of Matt Sydal, I am entertained by him. I think it's like his character that just doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, I'm the same
But like,
way. I'm the same way for
yeah,
him. Yeah.
at one point, Omega goes to throw Sydal off of the top rope, and Sydal catches him like midair with a leg scissors, and Omega bounces back with like this nasty lariat that like literally folds Sydal in half. It was like super impressive by both guys, both by Sydal to be able to catch him midair. Like he was doing that thing where it looks like he's floating. I'm just like, what do you like? How do you do this? How do you defy this? How do you defy gravity?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have it written down. Well, two things. One is I thought it was clever how Seidel was able to block the chainsaw. That was
Yeah,
that was pretty funny. And then when he eventually like gets chainsawed, it was pretty brutal. For those new to the pod, the chainsaw is basically Kenny Omega shaves only part of his forearm for a couple of days, so it's still prickly. And then he rubs it against his opponent's head, and the crowd will chant like "you sick uh fuck," Yeah, you sick fuck. And then he's like, what? That's my move. That's my move. I actually have it written down because, as you noted, you zoned, you just enjoyed the match too. But I literally wrote down zoned out part of the match, and then, and then I tuned back, and then my note is I tuned back in, and it's Seidel countering Kreutz Wrath was pretty cool, where he had him up in
Hmm.
the I can't remember if it was the electric chair position or if he was like mid German suplex when he like countered with that foot stomp on his chest. That was crazy. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah, it was.
yeah, and then he ends up eating like a knee 5 seconds later because you could tell that like that was the correct counter with the foot stomp, but you could tell that like if you're still awake and not gasping for air and that happens to you in like a match, you're pissed off at your opponent, and so you're like, okay, I'm just going to destroy this guy. And Kenny literally destroys him with a huge knee, and then he hit the one wing angel, um, which was like I have it written down that it was odd to see him get like so mad, but then I was like, it was also insane to see like he kills him with the he no sells getting foot stomped out of the Kreutz Wrath, gets up, kills him with a knee, then hits him with a one-winged angel and to win the match. And I don't think he had called it the one-winged angel at that point because Excalibur and I believe it was Chuck Taylor. I don't think it was Joey at that point on co-commentary, but they both were like, "Whoa, what's that move?" And
Yeah, and I have that noted as well. That like I wonder if this is one of the first times he's ever used it, or if he just hadn't given it a name yet because nobody on commentary knew what it was.
yeah, exactly. And I definitely think the right guy went over in this match.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, Seidel fought valiantly, but that's sort of been his character forever too, right? He's always like the underdog face that comes that fights valiantly, but then comes up short ultimately.
Mhm.
And then Kenny is just like um, I wasn't too familiar with his work going into this. I noted last time when he fought my man ACH, and he he I mean you could tell that that he's definitely very, very good. It's just, do you appreciate his style or not? That's how I looked at it.
Yeah, I agree.
Our next match is one that I've said it before. I've said this before. As you can tell, as you listen to this podcast, we tend to repeat ourselves, but it's our pod and we can do what we want. As that's also a repeat of a spot, but um, uh, this match, Roderick Strong versus AJ Styles, was basically how I was saying previously about how there's a match in like each round of the tournament where you're like, why isn't this the finals? Like, why is this so early in the card? And this for me was that match, Roderick Strong versus AJ Styles. Um, I knew going in because AJ was, I think, the NJPW champion at the time that if he lost, it was going to be by shenanigans because there's no way they're going to have like the non PWG champion pin the NJPW champ clean. Like it just was not it to me. It was never going to be clean. Like it was an excellent match, but it was never going to be a clean finish. Basically,
Yep, I agree.
If Styles didn't go over, I mean,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
so there was a ref bump 15 minutes in. AJ Styles hits this crazy pile driver where um it looks like he was botching the Styles clash and then he just literally drops him on his head. And I was like, oh
yeah.
my God.
That
I
was
was like,
dirty.
yeah, I was like, oh my God. And then Roddy brings in a couple of chairs and we see that like phantom move where when the ref recovers, all he hears is the chair being slapped. He doesn't know that it was like Roddy doing the Eddie Guerrero, not AJ hitting him. So
Yeah, that's in my head. I don't know if he was the first one to do it, but I always call that the Eddie Guerrero spot in my head.
yeah, definitely. Did you have a lot of notes on this or?
No, I really didn't, because I was just sucked into it. It was such a good match. The only two things that I took note of are that I loved seeing AJ Styles use the torture rack. I think the torture rack is one of the most underrated wrestling moves, and I wish more people would use it again. Um, I know that you're probably a fan also because of Lex Luger. Uh, that was one of his signature moves.
I was gonna
Um,
say to you, I was gonna say to you, this is our point in every pod where we bring up the icon
uh,
Lex Luger with that torture rack. I was like, who knew AJ Styles was a Lex Express fan? Screw you,
uh,
Bret Hart. That's what I wanted to say.
the other thing I took note of was just something that was said on commentary, which I thought was horrendous. Chuck Taylor says, "I bet AJ Styles' gloves are so wet inside," and Excalibur responds by, "I bet they smell."
Yeah,
I was just like, "That's so gross."
yeah, that was pretty gross. That was pretty
I
nasty.
know. I don't remember what match it was. I might be like jumping ahead here because I don't remember if I noted it. But at another point in this of tonight, Excalibur says to whoever else was on commentary with him, "I just felt a bead of sweat go down my face inside my mask. That means my mask has reached the point of absorption or something like that." I'm like, oh,
It,
it's
it,
so
it
disgusting.
I think it was the Elgin match because he was talking to Joey Ryan at that point. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it was earlier in the card. Yeah, yeah. But I remember that too. And I was like, oh, gross.
I mean, look, I take my morning walks every day. I get sweaty, but I go shower like right away. I really don't like being sweaty.
Do you wear a mask like Excalibur when you go walking or?
So I do. I didn't wear. I didn't. I wore it once so far, I think. But I bought this like half mask. It goes over like your ears, mouth, and nose. And it's like super breathable, but it's also like partially insulated. Because it does get, although I live in Texas, it does get quite cold here in the morning when I go for my walks. So kind of.
So I guess what I'm asking is, to break down the fourth wall, are are you Bajmir when you wear the mask or Bauerhausen when you wear the mask?
Uh, I don't know. I haven't decided yet.
Yeah, that's that's fair. Yeah, I thought literally, I mean, I'm biased towards Roderick Strong. I love Roderick Strong, but I think this was the only way to keep both guys strong, pun intended. Because like I said, you weren't gonna if AJ wasn't winning, you weren't gonna have Roderick Strong pin him. So I think it was like the sort of BS of how he ended up winning against AJ Styles was the only way to do it.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted AJ to win. I think I might have even called him winning the tournament, when asked earlier
Yeah.
on an earlier episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, he wasn't like you said. There had to be some kind of disqualification or something to get him out of the tournament if they were going to get him out. So I think that the guy that I wanted to win didn't win, but I think that everything they did was right.
Yeah, definitely. So going into the final second round match, eh, just to recap everybody who's gone through. So Johnny Gargano opened the second round going over Candice LeRae. Ricochet then followed up going over TJ Perkins. Trevor Lee pulled the upset of the night against Michael Elgin. Uh, Kenny Omega defeated Matt Sydal. And Roderick Strong, um, due to heel shenanigans, beat AJ Styles. So I'd say besides like Roddy versus AJ, which I guess you could, I wouldn't ever call a DQ an upset though. But
Yeah,
I'd say it was pretty predictable, like who was going to go through into the second round otherwise.
yeah, yeah. I think so.
Yeah. So our final match of the second round was PWG World Heavyweight Champion Kyle O'Reilly versus Zack Sabre Jr. This to me was the technical masterpiece that I think TJ Perkins and Ricochet were going for, but didn't do it for either of us earlier. So when you had the two like actual main event guys doing basically that same technical aspect of the match, it was pretty interesting. I didn't take like any notes for this. I was like, my notes are literally very technical, big post match angle, and just sat back and watched. What did you have for this in terms of notes?
Yeah, I mean, I was a very big fan of the textbook like technical opening to the match. They did like a great job of keeping up with each other. I love, I say it all the time, but I love Zack Sabre Jr. joint manipulation stuff. It always looks brutal. Um, and a little bit later in the match, both guys went into like this cyclone of back-to-back roundhouse kicks to the gut. And I think that if either of those guys were on the Shining Wizards podcast, they'd answer the question of when was the last time you shit your pants with BOLA 14?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like, how can you not?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But like later on in the match, Zack Sabre Jr. hits an avalanche flying cross arm breaker. I have never seen that before. Like I've never seen somebody just. How do you even pull that off? Like pull off a flying cross arm breaker from the top rope?
Yeah. It was it was insane. I like Kyle was able to counter it too. Like I legit thought that was the finish initially.
Yeah,
Like I thought we were getting
yeah,
an
yeah.
upset there, but yeah.
The finish was pretty good though. I have uh a pretty detailed account of what happened. So the finish to the match, Kyle O'Reilly ends up winning with a triangle choke. He knocks out Zack Sabre Jr. Referee calls the match. Post match, Zack Sabre Jr. and O'Reilly are like showing some respect to each other, shaking hands. It was a great match. And just like out of nowhere, just like a blur, Roderick Strong flies into the ring and he just nails both guys with just a brutal looking knee. Then he hits Kyle O'Reilly with one of the nastiest backbreakers I've ever seen. Like he throws him so high into the air, releases him, and just lets him fall onto his knees. Um, I've never seen a backbreaker that brutal.
Yeah,
And
that was probably the most vicious end of heartache I've ever seen.
yeah,
It's
thank
like,
you. I couldn't remember the name of it, and it sucks that I can't remember the name of it because I love that song.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
But Strongman, he gets a couple of chairs from under the ring. Rick Knox tries to get involved and takes a chair shot to the arm, which I think might have been like a legit injury because his arm is wrapped for the rest of the show. Um, and then poor Excalibur gets on the ring apron to try to get involved, takes a chair shot to the gut. Uh, and then Roderick Strong makes like a table out of the three chairs, and he just absolutely he does like a reverse, or I'm sorry, not a reverse, a release vertical suplex onto O'Reilly, like into the chair, just flattens him, and then he puts him into I think it's a lion tamer. I think Walls of Jericho is when there's like a full rotation, like more like a Boston Crab, and then the lion tamer is when it's like that half, your knee is kind of in their back.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, Eventually Bobby Fish comes out and breaks it up, but yeah, it was just the post match was as crazy as the match itself.
yeah. That post match was friggin' bonkers. Like, uh, as you said, he hit those two vicious knees. I think he even hit Zack Sabre Jr. with a sick kick afterwards, just to like make sure that he doesn't get involved and try to like stop him from the damage he's about to inflict on Kyle O'Reilly. What I thought
Yeah,
was what I thought was interesting about this was like it was a very methodical attack. It wasn't like he was angry or anything and he just lost his cool and finally like snapped. It was, if you look at his facial expression the entire time he's doing this beatdown, he's just like normal faced. Like he's like, I would destroy anybody this way. Like that was literally the look on his face. And the crowd is just initially they're stunned, then they start booing him and so forth. But yeah, and Kyle O'Reilly, like for how good he is as the champ, his selling is like if we do a top five list, like I want to do episodes eventually where we're doing like top five different categories, for instance. And so one of them would be um like top five best selling wrestlers. And he would like selling is in like selling the opponent's moves, not like selling merch. And he would definitely be there for me. It's like the way that he sold this was like chef's kiss, like it was fantastic. It was great.
yeah, it was wild. I really, I hate to say I enjoyed it because I love Kyle O'Reilly, but it was fantastic. And like you said, it was very methodical. He didn't just decide, oh, the match is over, I'm going to go attack. Like I feel like he was sitting back there all night just stewing, maybe even all weekend. Like as soon as this match is over, I'm out there.
Yeah, because they had made notes earlier on commentary. I think it was on night one that um Roderick definitely wanted to get his hands on Kyle because I think Kyle had defeated him previously during his title reign. And so
Mhm.
he was he was like obsessed with Kyle basically. But you knew that it wasn't like an angry obsessed, like he wanted the title so bad that like if you or me were in Kyle O'Reilly's shoes as the PWG champ, firstly, we would be in amazing shape, each. And secondly, he would have beat us up just the same way as he destroyed Kyle O'Reilly at BOLA.
Yeah, true.
So because of that, but prior to that angle, I think it made sense that Kyle O'Reilly went over Zack Sabre Jr. because he is the champ, and you sort of want to see him proceed. Like in an ideal world, maybe Roderick meets him in the final or a semifinal, as opposed to destroying him in the post match angle. But for what it was very well done. Like that's the thing about PWG that I'm noticing. They when they do a post match angle, um, they do it very very well.
Yeah.
So after Kyle O'Reilly advanced, but will we see him advance? And that wraps up the second round of the Battle of Los Angeles 2014. So just before we get into that, I guess if you want to take a drink, and I'll take a quick drink, and then we'll get into the six-man tag.
Sure. I mean, I'm okay for now. I have a drink here with me, so I'm good. If you want to, walk away for a sec, we're good.
Yep, I'm good. I'm good now. So next to bring us down from the tournament slash give us a little bit of a break of seeing all these singles matches, we get a fantastic six-man tag match. Mount Rushmore, Adam Cole, Matt Jackson, and Nick Jackson uh, versus Brian Myers, Chris Sabin, and ACH. Oh, before we get into this, I meant to tell you. So on coexisting the show on Fridays for Fightful, they had Cheeseburger as their guest this past week.
Oh, nice.
And so I asked them a question, and it turns out that you're not allowed to put over like other podcasts, which is totally fine. Like I get it. Like they're more professional, um, like it's a professional site with their own personal podcast. So I shouldn't have tried to put Tom and Will over, but essentially what I did was I asked a question via super chat to um Cheeseburger. And I was like, "Hi, Cheeseburger. My friends Will and Tom do a podcast called Ring of Honor Revelry. Right now, they're focused on 2014. And I was just curious, when you wrestled Jay Lethal twice for the television title, did you go easy on him?" And so when coexisting was reading the question, they skipped the ROH Revelry part, which is fine. Like I totally understand. And then
Yeah.
they accidentally said, um, did Jay Lethal go easy on you, Cheeseburger? Cheeseburger was reading the question too, and he's like, no, no, no. This guy Eric Freeds asked if I went easy on Jay Lethal, and I can tell you by the way that he beat the crap out of me that I was no ACH. And I was like, oh my God, he referenced ACH. That's freaking amazing. That's
Amazing.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very cool. So anyways, back to this match. Mount Rushmore versus ACH, Brian Myers and Chris Sabin. Looking at this match, the way that they booked Mount Rushmore, aka like the early version of the Elite, you would think going into this match that maybe they would have just squashed all three of these guys, but like this match was a sprint for like 10, almost 11 minutes. Like it had everything. It was comedy. There was a lot of fun stuff. One of my favorite parts, and I'm sure you have this in your notes too, was uh, when they tried to super kick the ring announcer again, like they did the previous night, and he ducked, and they got Adam Cole instead, and then he double clotheslines the Young Bucks, and I think he hits them with like a suck it or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, he did. And then the crowd just like the building just explodes. The entire building just comes off of their feet at the same time. It was amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it was great. Another fun part of this match was Brian Myers gets the hot tag and he starts body slamming like everybody. First, he body slams all three of his opponents, Cole and the Bucks. Then he body slams uh, his tag team partners, Sabin and ACH. At one point, ACH is like the last wrestler that he body slams, and ACH is like, okay, me too, me too, me too, me too. And then he goes to body slam Rick Knox, and Rick Knox actually reverses it and rolls him up. And between you and me, I think Cole was a little slow to make the count there because that was a clear three count for Rick Knox. But what did you think?
Yeah, I thought that was a fantastic moment. And I think you're right. I think Adam Cole was a little bit slow on the count.
But yeah, the match was pretty crazy. There was one part I really appreciated too, where the Bucks had Myers and Sabin down for the swantons that they do, and ACH comes in and he takes out Cole and then goes and hits his finishing move. And all three of them are doing a pin, and it's like 1, 2, and the Bucks stop their own pins to break up the pin of ACH. I was like, I appreciated that book, like that sort of thing. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, it was a very good moment. But like it does, I sometimes you can't, especially in these kind of matches, because this match was I wrote down that it was complete carnage, and I don't even think it's been 3 minutes yet. Uh, but in these types of matches, you can't put too much seriousness in it. But if we're talking about it in a serious way, like who would have even won that? Because the Young Bucks had two pins going on. ACH had one. So if Knox had counted it, wouldn't the Young Bucks have won because they would have gotten two pins over the other one? And then you also have to look at who was legal in the match, which who could even tell in this match?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a very good, funny moment, and we're just looking at taking it at face value.
Yeah, exactly. It was so funny. It was and it was action packed. I almost thought like they ultimately win the match. They kill my man ACH, which I I really wanted Brian Myers to take the pin. Like I knew going into the match, as I alluded to before, that uh I didn't think Mount Rushmore was going to lose, but like I wanted Brian Myers to take the pin, not ACH.
I agree. There was one part before they killed him for the finish. ACH was like standing on, I think he was standing on the commentary table or something like that, and he starts crowd surfing back to the ring, and both Young Bucks are just standing on the apron, and they're just waiting for him, and the crowd just crowd surfs him right into a double super kick. It was
Yes.
so funny.
Yeah. 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 I was like, oh my God. That was nuts. But yeah, that match was like 10:44. I actually appreciated. I don't know if they in the real life when they were filming this, if they did an intermission, but I appreciated that if they didn't, that the 6-man tags and the 10-man tag were the quote unquote intermission. Like I like that
Yeah,
better than an actual like let's take 30 minutes to just like chill out. Cause um I think this was about just over 3 hours and for me it flew. So I don't know how you felt about it, but it's I appreciate that sort of thing. I hate where you go to a show and it's 4 hours, but it's only 4 hours because they have like a 30 to 45 minute intermission. Right.
yeah,
So
I totally get that. The event itself, like I I generally don't watch season one sitting. I would like to, but I just don't have the time. So they don't necessarily go fast or slow for me. Normally, what I'll do is like I'll do my whole morning routine, and if I have 20 to 30 minutes left, I'll watch a match, and then I'll go to work.
yeah, and then you'll just get to them when you get to them. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I
Um
usually watch like one of these 3 hour shows. I'll usually watch it over a week, but like I said, the next one I'm probably gonna watch in one sitting because I have off Wednesday, so I might as well just just watch it.
yeah, for sure, definitely. And I think that card's only like 2 hours, but we'll get to that later. We'll
Mhm.
call that a teaser for now.
Yeah,
So what I liked about this, but sort of if you're taking notes, it's kind of annoying having to like keep hitting pause. And what I mean by that is after when after they go to one match, they'd cut to both people coming out and having a graphic to talk about like this is our next match basically. And so what I thought was interesting is after the six-man tag, they don't go to that sort of graphic. So you're like, oh, are we going to commercial break on one of these things or what's happening? And instead they go to the ring announcer who's in an empty ring and he says, because of the attack earlier, not only is Kyle O'Reilly no longer in the tournament, he's been taken to a hospital. And instead of like just flat out disqualifying uh but Roderick Strong for that attack. They're like, actually, so uh because he doesn't have an opponent, we're just gonna give him an automatic bye to the finals. And I was thinking of it like it adds to the like BS heel benefiting part of the story, but I was also like, wait a minute, TJ Perkins came in as like a stand-in and like B-Boy has come in as a stand-in. You're telling me that like you can't have somebody come in and fill in for uh O'Reilly and still maybe lose to Strong in the semis?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it was a smart way to get your champion out of there without having to have him lose. But I didn't necessarily like how they did it. Like they're just rewarding Roderick Strong bad behavior.
Yeah, because I was almost thinking too, you're seeing like we'll get to it in the 10 man, but there's definitely a couple guys in the 10 man where you're like, yeah, this dude could have just clearly filled in and fought Roddy in the semis.
Yeah, and
Uh
like there were people that he could have easily, not necessarily easily, but people that it would have been very believable for him to beat.
yeah, definitely. Definitely. I almost wondered too if it was like it was too late in the tournament to maybe bring in a ringer, but I mean like maybe that's what their logic was. Like we're not gonna have a ringer beat Roddy and then go to the finals and potentially win after like missing the first two rounds. But what
Yeah.
yeah, that's something we'll like be debating in our minds forever, you know? Uh, so instead of that match, we end up getting Johnny Gargano versus Trevor Lee in the first of the two semifinals. The other semifinal was Ricochet versus Kenny, and then the winners of those matches would face Roderick Strong in the finals. So Johnny versus Trevor Lee. So after Kyle O'Reilly versus Zack Sabre Jr., I stopped taking notes, but uh Johnny versus Trevor Lee was excellent because uh, Gargano is like a pro's pro. We've already mentioned how he's probably the next guy after Daniel Bryan to be the best wrestler on the Indies, and Trevor Lee's in 2014 is definitely making that case. So it was interesting to see like present generation versus future in a match. What did you make of this match?
I thought it was so good that I really don't have any notes on it at all. I was just really, really sucked in by it. I remember Trevor Lee attacking Gargano from behind at the beginning. Just really like he had like a bloodlust during this tournament. Like he was just like, I need to win. Like I need it. And I remember Lee just like really brutalizing Gargano during this match too. Yeah, I just remember it being a really, really good match.
Yeah, he sold Gargano made him look like $1 million or pre-Ted DiBiase giving him his Bitcoin inheritance. But, but yeah, he Johnny Gargano is excellent at selling and making his opponent look amazing. Trevor Lee definitely um between this and the Elgin match, like he proved why he can be in that like heavyweight conversation even at 20 years old at this point.
Mhm.
Um, Gargano eventually gets him. So the match goes about 16 minutes, which I was surprised at. It felt a little bit longer, if I'm honest. Which is fine. But yeah. 16 goes about 16 minutes. Gargano Lee was able to get out of a Gargano escape, but then Gargano put him in the escape again in the middle of the ring, and he just wasn't getting out at that point. So Lee taps out to finish his 2014. Um, so Gargano moves on to the finals to face Roderick Strong and the winner of Ricochet versus Kenny Omega. Um, so we both love Johnny Gargano, and I think it was too early for Lee to like go to a finals. So I think Gargano, in my opinion, Gargano definitely was the right guy to win this match. What did you think?
Yeah, I agree. I wanted Trevor Lee to win, but when you think about it in that way, if he won this, I would have really wanted him to win the whole thing, and I kind of would have been disappointed if he didn't. So kind of better for him to not even be there yet.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Like I think if he's in if he's in any of the future bolas that we cover, I'm expecting him to win one of those, but that's for the future. So who knows? Um, in our next match, Ricochet versus Kenny. I definitely thought Kenny was going to win this match because uh, I did not like Ricochet during this uh, tournament. I mean, his match with Chris Sabin in the first round was pretty good. Uh, Perkins, as we heard about an hour ago, um, neither of us really liked. Kenny, on the other hand, I mean, you could see as much as I didn't like Kenny at this time, you could see the stardom building up with him. So that was sort of why I figured he would be going to the finals. What did you think of this match?
I thought it was a really fun match because even at this point in time, I really liked both of these guys. Um, I'm with you. I really just kind of assumed that Kenny Omega would win. It was another match where I didn't take a whole lot of notes on it just because I was so uh, entertained by it. Like one of the only real things that I noted was that shortly after the match started, Ricochet ends up on commentary, like talking crap to Omega, and excuse me, Omega literally throws a chair at him from the crowd and gets a 2-for-1 deal, takes out Excalibur at the same time. Poor Excalibur is just getting chair shot after chair shot tonight.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Go ahead.
the other thing that I noticed was like right at that moment, it looked like there was a pitcher of water that was about to spill on all the electric equipment, and just some random PWG employee just grabs it like right before it spills. So shout out to that guy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. They don't protect Excalibur, but they do protect the equipment, which is nice. Uh
Well, it was too late for Excalibur. He had already taken the chair.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, I remember that too. And then afterwards when he like woke up because it was dead air in terms of a description for or play by play for a couple of minutes there while he was selling. And then when he wakes up again, I think he like argues with I think it's Chuck Taylor. It may have been Chuck Taylor or Chris Hero, but he's like, "What the hell?" And then he's like, "I'm having such a terrible tournament. Like this has been the worst
Uh,
weekend of my life." So it was pretty funny. Ricochet ends up winning the match, beating Kenny in just under 19 minutes, and now we have our final set: Ricochet versus Johnny Gargano versus Roderick Strong. So. Uh, Pre going into this finals because we ultimately do know who won. But pre going into the finals, did you have a pick of the three who you wanted to go all the way? Like, were you picking Gargano or were you picking maybe Roderick to go through because he took out Kyle earlier and now it's like, well, now he has to because he's been gifted the finals? Or,
uh, yeah, I was probably at this point thinking Gargano was going to probably win.
yeah. Um, yeah, and I thought Roddy for sure was my logic. And then, I mean, if Ricochet won, I was gonna be like, I guess, okay, sure, but like it wouldn't have been a letdown. But like of those three names, I think him winning would have been a letdown. But we'll see in the finals. Uh, so after the semifinals, we got a 10-man tag team match. I mentioned earlier that Trevor Lee versus Michael Elgin was my low-key match of the tournament. And even though this was not a tournament-based match, based on our text messages on Discord, I'm taking it that this was your match of 2014, Bola. Chris
Uh,
Chris Hero versus Team one, Chris Hero, Chuck Taylor, Joey Ryan, Rich Swann, and Willie Mack versus Biff Busick, Bobby Fish, Cedric Alexander, Drew Gulak, and Tommaso Ciampa. Was this your match of the weekend?
So I go, for me, I only include tournament matches in
Oh,
my picks for that.
yeah.
But if I was not, then yeah, this probably would be. This match was completely. I thought it was gonna suck because like when you see a 10-man tag team match in like WWE, it always sucks.
Mhm.
But yeah, not here. This was an amazing match.
Yeah, this match was hilarious. Initially Chuck Taylor jumps on commentary to join Excalibur, then each wrestler basically to start pairs off. Um, uh, I believe it was Willie Mack and Drew Gulak. Champa, basically everybody paired off with each other, and then it got to Ciampa pairing off with Chuck Taylor. And this version of Ciampa was not only psychotic, but also very gross. There's a part where he dropped toe holds Chuck Taylor, puts his sticks his thumb up to the crowd, and then he plunges his thumb into Chuck Taylor's butt. And then he takes his thumb out of Chuck Taylor's butt and he puts it in his mouth. Uh, that was gross. And he tries to go later in the match. He tries to like a few minutes later. He tries to go for that move again. I think he actually hits it again, and Chuck Taylor's like, "All right, that's enough. You need to slow down." And the referee is like, "Huh?" And everybody's like, "What?" And Chuck Taylor is like, "Slow down." So for the next like I want to say 6 or 7 minutes. Everybody involved in the match, uh, both teams, the crowd, the commentary. The only one not involved in this was Bobby Fish because he thought it was too silly. But everybody else got into went into mode. So they were slow walking to hit each other with moves. Uh, Excalibur's talking like this, and the crowd's going, whoa, whoa, whoa. And the referee is like going slow counting, and it's just pure comedy. And Bobby Fish finally has enough, and he kicks some guy like really hard, super fast, and it snaps everybody out of this trance, and then goes into um back to normal mode sort of thing. Super silly spot, but it was insanity. What did you make of that specific spot?
I love when they do the slow motion stuff, and I was like incredibly impressed with how long they kept it up for, and like the crowd participation with no prompting, just like unspoken, just going straight into it. It was awesome. I was definitely not impressed with Tommaso Ciampa going S to mouth twice, but you know, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, that was so gross. And then when they all put each other in the sleeper hold, and Chuck Taylor's doing like a handstand, so he
Uh-huh.
can't get up. That was pretty funny. Uh,
I also when Taylor was on, like you said, he was on commentary to begin, and the only thing that dragged him away from commentary is he says to Excalibur, "Hey, why is Rich Swann only wearing one kick pad?" He's like, "You know what? I'm gonna go ask him." And he gets to the ring just in time for Rich Swann to get tagged in, so he can't ask him.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was pretty funny. Or I liked when he was making his way back over to his team to go ask about the kick pad. He was tugging on Drew Gulak and I think uh, Champa's shoes, like the way that you would
Uh-huh.
jokingly pull down your opponent. What
Yeah.
what I think is hilarious about this too is like wherever Chuck goes, Trent is surely around. So to
Mhm.
see like AEW turn have Trent turn on Chuck and then have him kayfabe end his career. I was like, no, these dudes are such good friends. Like I can't go back and watch BOLA now without being like, why Trent? Why? You guys are such good buddies. Like, come on. Like, you guys love each other. Like, come on, man. Um, but yeah, the match itself was tremendous. Um, there's one part where Chuck Taylor does like this atomic drop grenade thing, and like everybody sells it, even the fans and the commentator booth. Like you can see the camera shaking to for the
Hmm.
impact of that atomic drop. And then Rich Swann ultimately hits a frog splash on, I think it was Bobby Fish, and
Uh,
wins the
yeah,
match.
I noted that he hit like this tremendously high frog splash, but I didn't know who he hit it against. But yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, yeah. To send the fans home. Well, there's one more match, but like in this match itself, to send the fans happy because the face team was able to beat the heels. That also goes to show you, Bauer, that never go ass to mouth and expect to win.
True.
That's what I got out of that. So, as we close things out on BOLA 2014, we get to the finals, and the finals, as we saw, are Ricochet versus Johnny Gargano versus Roderick Strong. Uh, this match was, it's interesting because you always hope that a tournament tells the story that the winner's gonna have like a killer final match and so forth. But for me, this was just there. It wasn't anything like fantastic necessarily, but it was okay. I thought it could have been better, but it was okay.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I didn't take any notes on this match because I was really locked in. I thought it was a great match, but I do understand where you're coming from. I'm also, even at this point in his career, I'm a really big Ricochet fan. So getting to see him interact in a triple threat match with two other guys that I really, really like, I was just locked in. I was having a good time.
Yeah, yeah. I think what I meant too was that in terms of it just being there, it felt like because the match only goes about just under 15 minutes. And to me, I'm like, if it's your final, I kind of want a half an hour out of that. Like it felt like right as they got out of first gear, they called the finish. And I was like, I mean, I wonder a little bit if the silliness from the 10-man tag took cut into that time that they would have given the three-way. Because as you just noted, you look at these three wrestlers, Ricochet, Gargano, and Strong, and to me, that's like um firstly, I think it should have been an elimination match. I don't think it should have been first fall to a finish. And secondly, like I said, it should have been more time.
I can agree with it being more time. I wouldn't have minded, even if they gave it another 5 to 7 minutes, I would have been a little happier.
Yeah, there was a part I don't know if I zoned out or not, but like Roderick Strong just like disappears near the end of the match, and then it's just Ricochet and Gargano going back and forth, and ultimately Ricochet puts Gargano away to win the tournament. And I'm like, where was Roderick Strong for like the last 5 minutes of that match?
Yeah.
But then, so ultimately, Ricochet is King Ricochet of the Battle of Los Angeles. Um, he wins the tournament, and then we get another post-match angle where Roderick Strong comes in and he beats the holy heck out of Ricochet. The only thing I could take from this was that they still wanted Roderick Strong to live up to his last name and stay strong because he he didn't take the pinfall, and therefore he has like a claim to say, Ricochet beat Johnny, he didn't beat Roderick, and therefore um, I get winner of Ricochet versus Kyle whenever that match happens. Speaking of, Bauer, let our fans know when that's going to happen.
So the title match between Ricochet or with Ricochet that he earns in this tournament, that happens about it's 2 shows after this, I think, which would be 4 months later. I think they used to run 6 shows per year. It takes place on December 12th, 2014. That show is called Black Coal Sun, and we will be reviewing that one next week. I think that's a pretty good idea with these 3 night tournaments if we're going to do one every week to first 3 weeks of the month, do the tournament one night each, and then watch the show where the winner gets their title shot.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Yeah, so that's the plan going forward is um what Bauer just said.
What did you I have noted at the end here my night of match or my match of night three and my match of the weekend. Do you have one of each as well?
Oh, okay, great. Let's go with yours. Let's go with yours.
Sure. So my match of night three was Johnny Gargano versus Trevor Lee. I thought it was incredible. My match of the weekend though is still going to be ACH and Kenny Omega from night two.
Yeah, that was I would agree with you on so um those are tremendous picks. For me as my match of the tournament, I think was Trevor versus Elgin. But my match of the night was Johnny versus Trevor. Like seeing Trevor Lee's coming out party only for him to fall short was a captivating part of this, was a low key. Like I know they want you to sort of remember this as the night Roderick Strong uh came into his own as a heel. But to me, like the bigger low key story was that Trevor Lee really had like a great showing.
Yeah, I agree with that. He was like I said, he seemed to just have like a bloodlust for winning during this tournament. Like he was just full gear the whole time.
Yeah, definitely. So did you have? I know at the end of 13 you mentioned where everybody else goes after this tournament. So do you have that for 14 as well, or?
I do. Yeah, I have everything listed. It's a little bit long, but I can run through it real quick if you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So I have them in alphabetical order this time. Um, so ACH, I still don't know 100% what he's doing. I thought that he was retired. I heard someone say recently that he's back, but the most recent thing that I can find that he's done is House of Glory in 2022. I don't know if you have any other insight on that.
Um, I think he wrestled on a GCW show like a couple months ago.
Okay, maybe I just wasn't that wasn't coming up in my search results, but I'm not sure. But moving on, Adam Cole signed to AEW and is the leader of Undisputed Kingdom. AJ Styles is signed to WWE and wrestles for SmackDown. Biff Busick is signed to WWE as a coach at the Performance Center and producer for NXT. Bobby Fish is signed to MLW. Brian Myers is signed to TNA, where he's a member of the system with Moose, Eddie Edwards, Alicia Edwards, and JDC. Candice LeRae is signed to WWE and wrestles for SmackDown. She's also the inaugural WWE Speed Women's Champion. Cedric Alexander signed to WWE and wrestles for NXT. Chris Hero is an AEW producer. Chris Sabin is signed to WWE, wrestles for SmackDown. He is currently half of the WWE Tag Team Champions with Alex Shelley, aka the Motor City Machine Guns. Christopher Daniels is with AEW as head of talent relations, and he occasionally still wrestles and appears as an on-screen interim EVP. Chuck Taylor signed to AEW as a coach and in-ring performer. He is currently on hiatus from performing due to an ankle injury. Drew Gulak is currently working the independent circuit after a WWE run that had a controversial ending. Excalibur is signed to AEW as play-by-play commentator for Dynamite and Rampage. Frankie Kazarian is signed to TNA. Joey Ryan is retired. Johnny Gargano is in WWE, wrestles for SmackDown. Kenny Omega is signed as an in-ring performer and EVP for AEW. He's currently out of action with diverticulitis. Me and him were basically the same guy. Kyle O'Reilly is signed to AEW and is currently a member of the conglomeration with Mark Briscoe, Orange Cassidy, Willow Nightingale, Tomohiro Ishii, and Rocky Romero. The Young Bucks I have them listed individually, but like they're the same guy. They're signed to AEW. Matt Sydal is currently signed to AEW. Michael Elgin is retired. Ricochet is signed to AEW. Rich Swann is signed to TNA. Roderick Strong is signed to AEW and is part of Undisputed Kingdom with Adam Cole, Matt Taven, Mike Bennett, and Wardlow. TJ Perkins is signed to NJPW and is leader of United Empire with Will Ospreay, Great Khan, Jeff Cobb, Hanare, Mark Davis, and Francesco Akira. Tommaso Ciampa is signed to WWE and wrestles for SmackDown. Trevor Lee is currently working the independent circuit, same with Willie Mack. And Zack Sabre Jr. finally is signed to New Japan and is their current IWGP World Heavyweight Champion.
Nice. Yeah, that's quite the long list of success for
Yeah,
all those guys. That's great.
it is crazy. Like only I think there are 38 names there. And out of those 38, I think three of them are wrestling on the indies. They're not part of a major company, and two of them are retired. So 32 names out of all those are big somewhere.
Yeah, that's nuts. That's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, that goes to show you like these tournaments, these early tournaments, 13, 14, are literally the present day like stars that we know,
Yep.
which is which is great. So if you're listening to this and you're a wrestler, do you have like dreams of going far? Just to see how these tournaments went, basically.
Yeah. I mean, the honestly, PWG is like I feel like to get invited there, like you really, I don't know I definitely don't know what it is now, but even back in this time, I don't know what the criteria was for being invited to wrestle there, but like I would assume you had to really catch somebody important's eye.
Definitely agree. Definitely agree. Well, this will Barrett, always a pleasure doing this with you. This will go up on Wednesday, the 27th. As we noted at the top, our thoughts and wishes on a speedy recovery to Akira after a brutal injury suffered during RPW's Malignant on November 23rd. Uh, BOLA 2014 is done. Ricochet is our winner. Roderick Strong he was already a heel, but like he skyrocketed to the number one heel in the PWG company. And we look forward to Black Coal Sun next week. Hope you can join us. And then after that, 2015 BOLA in 2 weeks. Also, couple Nattering with you notes. One, Nattering Chell will be up after taking last week off. Nattering Chell will be back this week. Thursday, we also have a Nattering E music spotlight. Neil and I are going to be doing the review of the Illmatic, Nas's album from the early 90s, which is considered one of the greatest hip hop albums of all time. Graham from Good Cop, Bad Cop is also returning for just some back and forth banter. It's been a while. And then uh, we'll have Nattering Express is going to return as well. And then finally, we'll be back recording another episode of Nattering BOLA. So for Bauer, this is Eric. Thanks for nattering with us about the Battle of Los Angeles. See ya.